Okay, yeah, I unmuted my microphone. Okay, welcome everyone. My name is Moshe Hecht. I'm the Chief Fundraising Specialist here at Charidy.com. Today's webinar is entitled Matchmaker. Okay, we're going to give a comprehensive training on how to identify and secure those three matchers or three groups of matchers for your charity campaign. We have with us to present this webinar, which hopefully we will turn into a series of webinars, is Mr./Rabbi Jonah Halper. Jonah is a seasoned fundraising consultant. He spent over the last 10 years helping mid to large size nonprofits identify and secure major gifts. He is coming out with a book that should be out soon entitled Date Your Donor. And Jonah has now joined the charity team as the Director of Donor Engagement. That means that he really helps with the philosophy and the consulting on campaigns. And it's a testament to where charity is going and the long-term vision of charity, that we are not looking to just be a crowdfunding platform, but our long-term vision, our long-term plan is to really be a full resource for all your fundraising needs, and good knowledge and experience, and sharing that knowledge and experience is a big part of this, specifically for your charity campaign and also for year-round fundraising. So I'm going to go right ahead and bring you up to Jonah. Just a technical thing. If you have questions, and we do encourage questions, there's going to be 2 points times for questions. The first time is going to be about halfway through the presentation, and you can ask questions in 2 ways. You can either you'll notice on the right top side of your screen, you will see a grid. If you click on that grid, there is a Q&A app, and we encourage everyone to use that Q&A app and type in those questions. When we get to questions, I will read those questions off to Jonah, and Jonah will answer those questions. Between me and Jonah, we'll be able to answer your questions, hopefully. If you're having trouble finding the Q&A app, or maybe if you're watching from your phone today, you can go ahead and email me directly, Moshe@Charidy.com, MOSHE @Charidy.com, and we'll make sure to get to your questions. Jonah, it's all yours, brother.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Moshe Hecht, and thank you for everybody else who is on the call today. My name again is Jonah Halper, and today we're going to talk about is major gift fundraising, as we call a charity, the matcher, identifying and soliciting 3 individuals or a consortium of people who will serve as the 3/4 of your campaign, the ones who will be the ones that will help you leverage the giving from the community and have a successful charity campaign, whether it's $100,000, $1 million, or $10 million one day. So the goal of today, and there's a lot of moving parts and a lot of important things that we can talk about as part of a charity campaign, is to focus on the matchers. And the reason why we're going to do that is because, first of all, if you don't have matcher money, then it's a non-starter, right? You need to have the people bought into the idea that they should be the 3 core donors of a charity campaign. And that is, first and foremost, the most important piece of launching your own charity campaign. The reason why it's probably the preeminent conversation to have is because the sell that you have for a matcher is going to become the sell that you really use for everybody. The idea that somebody is going to take a big investment in you as an organization and in charity as a platform is going to become the reason why you are going to be successful, and when you bring it to the community and bring it to everybody, why you'll be successful. So being able to properly pitch it and being able to properly solicit and secure your matching money is really going to become the DNA of why charity campaigns work and why your community is going to rally around your charity campaign and for it to succeed. So what we're going to talk about today is specifically how to identify the ideal candidates to be a matcher for your charity campaign, and then how to properly set yourself up to get the meeting, make sure it's done in a way that is appropriate, and solicit them successfully. Fortunately, Charidy has been doing this for a while now, not necessarily for 15, 20 years, but they've done over 450 campaigns. And that's very important to say. It's not just the opportunity to brag about the number of campaigns Charidy has done, but it says that we know what it takes to succeed. We know the language, we know what's compelling, we've seen it done right, and we've seen it not done right. And the idea here is for you, they say it's good to learn from your own mistakes. It's even better to learn from other people's mistakes. And while we have 100% campaign success, it's because we invest in our clients, in the organizations that want to do a campaign, and we make sure that you're properly prepared in all aspects of engaging and soliciting your matcher money, and then of course subsequent donors and the community after that. So let's get right in. What we're going to do is I'm going to try to do it in a couple different themes, and I will give an opportunity for Q&A somewhere in the middle, and then at the end we'll have more opportunities for Q&A. And as Moshe Hecht said, you can just type in your questions, and then he'll relay those questions because I can't visually see while we're going along. So it's like the equivalent of you raising your hand for me to catch your attention and me ignoring you. So I apologize in advance that it has to be so structured, but it's the only way to really be able to accommodate the questions that you have, and for us to kind of filter down. So if there's repeat questions, we can get the real core issue and answer the questions succinctly. So let's get started. All right, so basically the first thing we need to address is identifying the people who are the ideal candidates to be your matchers. And there is no one size fits all as far as the person who's going to be a matcher. You can have people who are the individual donors. That means, let me just verify I'm actually sharing my screen here. Screen share.
You're not. Jonah, you're not sharing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Hang on a second. I should be sharing at this point now.
Yep, you're good.
Okay. All right. All right, thank you. All right, so when we're talking about the types of matchers, we have individual donors. Those are people that you have to sell one, maybe two individuals on.
Jonah, you want to press play on that so that we can fill up the screen?
Yeah, hang on. I think I did. Hang on. Let me hit play again. This is the play. I hit play. Can you see it?
Yeah, but you can't fill up the screen with that?
It won't let me, no.
Okay, you're good.
Okay. So, all right, let's keep going here. The types of matchers. So we have really, I'm going to talk about three types of matchers. We have individual donors, and the people that you have to sell are really one or two people, which is usually husband and or wife. That's it, which means that if you have identified individual donors who have been generous to you in the past, and you've identified them as a potential matcher, the amount of selling that you have to do is relegated to one or two individuals, which is very helpful, because if you know, or you've got your finger on the pulse of what's important to those individuals, then it's not going to require you to talk to 15 different chefs to get them bought into the idea of being a matcher on a charity campaign. So it's very important to understand that if they are somebody, if this is an individual donor who has given to you in the past, to identify who it is that you really need to sell. If it's the husband, if it's the wife, if it's both of them together as a unit, to make sure to solicit them together. We will talk about very shortly about the difference between soliciting someone who has given to you in the past versus somebody who is a new prospect and you've never solicited before. But for now, we're going to talk about the types of givers that you could possibly go to for matchers. And then we've got foundation donors. These are institutions, organizations that have very specific requirements of what types of things that they give grants to, where they give philanthropic dollars to. And it doesn't mean that you are not eligible to approach them. In fact, if it's a foundation that has a board of directors, identifying the right individuals on that board who can influence the decision-making process is key, right? To just put an application in someone's inbox, you're just going to be another application. But to have the right relationship with the right people at a specific foundation is very, very important. But it's also important to recognize that foundations have specific requirements. You may not qualify as an organization, or if you do qualify as an organization, the charity campaign might be something that might not fit into the construct of what they do and how they give out money. So it's very important that if you have a foundation that's a prospect, to take serious consideration who the right person is at the foundation to develop that relationship and to solicit in this capacity, and to also make sure that what you have to offer is going to fit within the rubric your corporate donors. And this varies a little bit. You can have an individual donor who has a company and they're going to make the gift through their company, and that still functions more in the individual donor model. Like they're going to give you because they love you, and it's just a matter of doing it through the corporate entity. However, when I say corporate donors, I'm speaking more to a place that's similar in the way that you have to sell more than one or two individuals, that it's a decision that's a company decision, and also because it's a company decision, it needs to make sense for the company. And the way that plays out is whether or not, and this is like the number one rule when it comes to getting corporate dollars, is does this fit in a co-branding fashion for the company? And that means, would the company get anything out of any value out of partnering with your organization in this public way? Does the look and feel of your organization fit the look and feel of the company? Does the audience that you serve also mirror the audience of the company? They are caring about one thing and one thing only, and that's their the stock price. That's their shareholders, making sure that they're making money. And the decision to sponsor or to give you money for your charity campaign will hinge on whether or not that publicity makes sense for them. If that reach makes sense for them, it's going to come down to that kind of decision. So making sure that you frame your question in a way, or you frame your pitch in a way that demonstrates that value, demonstrates the co-branding value to the company, is something that you would need to take into consideration when you approach them as corporate sponsors for a charity campaign.
Jonah, let me stop you for 1 second. We're not seeing the slides that are going through. Did you press play? Are you going through that?
I should be on the corporate donor slide. Do you see that?
You're not. So it's stuck on the first page. You want to try to unshare your screen and then share it again?
Yes, let me do that right now.
Oh, okay. Now we're seeing it. Foundation donors. Okay, now try that again and see if you can get it to fill up the whole screen. Go ahead.
Okay, I need to screen share. Sorry, I apologize.
It's okay.
I'm going to do, all right, I know what I'm going to do. Let's try this. Is this better?
That's better. Very good.
Okay. All right. My apologies. All right. So we discussed individual donors, foundation donors, and corporate donors. So now let's talk briefly about donors versus non-donors, because this is very, very important. The reason why it's important is because I want to draw the distinction between transactional giving and partnership giving. Right? This is the ATM machine. This is what you would call the transactional giving, and this is a partnership, two people coming together. And this is kind of my MO. I talk a lot about this in any types of consulting I do. My book focuses on relationship-driven fundraising, and the distinction between a transactional gift and a partnership is key. What the definition between those two, or the difference between the two, is the idea is that if somebody's bought into the mission and vision of your organization, right? Your mission is what you're in the business of doing, what your organization's mission and business of doing, and your vision is about where you're headed, right? If you are doing X, Y, Z now, right, and your goal is to get to point A, B, C, right down the road, that requires money. And because it requires money for whatever vision that you have, you're looking for somebody who's willing to come on the ride with you, right? The idea when you're dating somebody, and my book is called Date Your Donors, so I apologize for the shameless plug, but within context, the idea is that when you are dating somebody, you want to make sure that they have similar values and that you have similar things that you want in life, so that you can decide if this is somebody that you would want to spend your life with. Do they want kids? Do they not want kids? Do they want to live in the city? Do they not want to live in the city? Who's going to be the primary breadwinner? Are you going to be the primary breadwinner? Am I going to be the primary breadwinner? All these types of questions are important questions when you're dating someone seriously, because ultimately you're going to be making a very important decision that they're going to become your partner for the long haul. And that's very important when you're fundraising, because you're not asking them for just a check. You're not saying, please, can you consider $1,000? Last year you gave $800. Thank you very much. Goodbye. Right? You're looking for somebody who is bought into your vision, is going to be along with you on the ride. And for a lot of you who are, whether you run Chabad houses, or you're a Kiruv organization, or you do Jewish education, whatever it is, the people who are your staunch supporters are people who are bought into the vision of where you're headed, and they are your partners. So the idea of coming to them with a charity campaign specifically to say, support our cause, because we have a vehicle that can help us accomplish our mission and vision in a very real way and in a very timely way, 24-hour campaign, and also in a way that the urgency is there because it's all or nothing, and we'll discuss about those types of to emphasize those aspects. But the idea to say to somebody who's a partner, not somebody who's just you're looking for a check, I want you to be a partner in this campaign. I want you to be a matcher. I want you someone to be on my side of the table, to come around and say, put money in along with 2 other matchers or a consortium of matchers so that we can bring this to the community and accomplish wonderful things. It's important that your conversation happens that way. So when we say, are they an existing donor or a non-donor, the distinction is if they're an existing donor, if there's somebody who's bought into the vision, then so you need to make sure that that carries through when you're soliciting them with the charity campaign. They're not interested in the logistics and the mechanics of it from the get-go, right? You need to sell them on what this is going to accomplish. If you do a charity campaign and you raise $100,000 in 24 hours, what is the impact of that? And what is the role that your potential matcher plays in that? And it's very important to couch it in that kind of way. If they're a non-donor, the emphasis on selling the mission and vision has to come first, because somebody who's already been drinking the Kool-Aid for a very long time and they're a big supporter of you and they appreciate what you're doing, the sell for them is more about how charity is going to accomplish the vision that they know and love. But for somebody who's a non-donor, you need to make the case from the beginning why they're a partner, and you're not just coming to them as an ATM, right? You're not just coming to them as a wallet with legs, that this is built on what the core product is of your organization, the mission, and vision is where you're headed, and how the money raised on this charity campaign is going to help you get from point A to point B. So that is the most important thing. And the reason why I also say this is because somebody who works for an organization, and you know your organization, you know what you stand for, what you believe in, you've been doing this all day long, every day, every month, every year. So you might easily get stuck in the rut of focusing on the logistics and the bells and whistles of a charity campaign, and forget that if they're a non-donor, or if there's somebody who has a very loose connection to your organization, you might forget that you need to sell them on mission and vision first. You can't go into the charity aspect of it because they're not going to be bought into what that money is going to accomplish. So all right, so the question now comes down to is we've identified the types of people who can give, whether they're donors or non-donors, and the question comes down, this is always the $64,000 question, and sometimes I mean that literally. So where do you find these potential matchers? Because they don't just fall out of the air. And if you're a shliach, or you run an organization, or you have some serious development responsibilities, you understand that you actually have to be proactive with this. It doesn't just fall in your lap. And if it does fall in your lap, it happens so rarely that it's not an effective strategy. You just get lucky once in a while. So the question comes down to is, where do you find these potential matchers? And the answer, which should come as no surprise to you, is that it comes through your existing network, right? Obviously, people that you have an existing relationship with, that's the 1 degree of separation from you. People who might be your usual suspects, or the people who come to your events, your programs, your shiurim, your educational sessions, whatever it is, high holiday services. Anybody who knows you, it could either be from one of them or 1 degree further, somebody that they may know. And they're not going to just offer up those individuals themselves. They're not, you can't go to somebody and say, who do you know? Right? It usually is not very effective. You need to do the research yourself to identify who is that one person that I know exists, that they're over there, they're a degree of separation away, and who is that common connection that I have to them, and to specifically ask for that introduction. It's very important to be very particular and specific to somebody who is one of your regular cronies, or someone who's very involved with your organization, to say, look, I know you know this nursing home owner over there. I think because of what we're doing that this would resonate with them. Would you make the introduction? And I'll fine tune on how the introduction works based on the type of people that you want to go after, but it needs to be targeted. If you identify somebody who is a potential matcher and you need an introduction, make sure to be specific and say, I need an introduction to this person. You don't want to just go to your inner circle and say, we want to do a charity campaign and we need matchers. Who do you know? The more specific you are, the more real it becomes to your inner circle, and they're more inclined to say, yes, we can make this happen, and I've got the ideal candidate that I think would be worthwhile, but you need to be specific about who they could be. So obviously, think about your existing donors. Think about your friends and family. Think about the volunteers. Who's coming out the year. Board members, your staff, your neighbors, people who are, it could be your neighbors from your house, it could be neighbors from your organization. Think in terms of who is going to be a degree of separation, and make sure to identify those people who have the capacity to be a matcher and that you think would be inclined to say yes based on your connection to them and based on what your mission and vision is. So these are just some suggestions that I have on the screen of audiences that you should take into consideration. Of course, I'll make sure these slides are available to you afterwards so that, you know, it's not just here and done. You'll be able to reference back, you know, use these as references after the live session. So this is a very important piece that I want to talk about here, because when it's time to approach somebody that you have in mind, who should approach is not an obvious thing. You might view yourself as the judge, jury, and executioner, the one who does it all, but sometimes it behooves you to make sure that it's not necessarily just you making the ask. Being able to do an ask with somebody, to go do it in person with somebody else, has a certain number of benefits. The first and foremost, the benefit is it gives you time to think and mentally prepare responses to feedback, part of the sale, if you know that you're not the only one doing it. Having someone else there who's having a share in the conversation gives you the opportunity to take in the way your potential donor is reacting to information and being able to qualify it and explain it because you have actual time to think. The other important thing to think about is that person in conjunction with the person you're approaching, right? If you, as an executive director or the director of a Chabad house or whoever it is, whatever your role may be, you may be the ideal person to do it, but you have to keep in mind that you're reaching out to people who you may need that introduction. So the idea of going with other people who can lend value to, for example, the person that made the introduction. If I went to someone who's on my board and say, hey, you know this nursing home owner, would you make the introduction? Actually bringing that board member to accompany you on the solicitation is a very powerful thing, because it's much harder for someone to say no to it when their friend is there. And also it adds a lot of credibility to know that their friend is bought into the process, so that they're soliciting you as well. So asking point blank to someone who's a board member and saying, look, I'm happy to make the introduction, say, would you be willing to come with me on this solicitation? They may say no, but it doesn't hurt to ask, because if they say yes, it will magnify the chances of you getting a successful solicitation if they have one of their friends there with you on the ask. The other person to bring is the expert. That's the maven, the person who is an expert in the field. So if you're a friendship circle and you have someone involved in your organization that is an expert in autism or Down syndrome or whatever special needs that you might be doing, to have an authority on the mission and the vision of your organization there with you on a solicitation could be very powerful. To be able to say, this person understands deeply the impact that we're having right now, and the fact that your support and the community support can help us get from point A to point B. To have someone there who's an expert, someone with the credibility and gravitas to say that you're not just an organization, you're an organization that attracts the best and brightest leadership to be involved with you. That can also be a tremendous service to your ask. And lastly, the brass. And there's the idea that if you are the executive director of your organization, to have the president there of your organization, or have a certain board member who can say, look, we're taking this seriously, right? This is not just some cute idea and we have this idea of doing a crowdfunding campaign and you're going to come out of desperation. No, this is not a desperate ask. This is a serious ask with real deep intention and a real strategy behind it. And obviously in other sessions, we can talk about what that strategy looks like. But to go with somebody who says we mean business, the president of your organization, the key board members, someone who can lend credibility on the side of your organization on that ask as well. And to have them there at the meeting can provide some real value. Also, something to go back and to consider is that when you ask somebody to make an introduction on your behalf, to say, hi, I know this nursing home owner, would you make an introduction? More of a global thing that I talk a lot about in my book, but I think is important to recognize here, is that if you're asking for an introduction not based on their wallet, if you can see on what it means to deal with the elderly, they know what it means to age in place and to age with dignity, and our organization does that, we would love to pick their brain or to get them involved in this, because I think they would add a lot as far as their expertise as an expert, or someone who can be the connector to say, look, this person is a nursing home owner, they know a lot of people in the industry, to find a way to make the introduction that's not based on the dollar amount. And obviously, I'll be available after the call. If you find that a lot of times when you're like, I want to ask for an introduction, but I'm not sure that connection of mine, that board member will make the introduction because all they want is money. I'm happy to help you find a way to make it where it makes sense to say this person should be involved, not because of their money, but because money is a piece of that, but to bring them in as a partner in our organization would make whoever's making the introduction much more inclined to say, yeah, I would love to make the introduction because I think they have a lot to offer your organization. So I want to just qualify that when you're looking for introductions, use me as a resource to help you find a way to spin it in an honest way, in a way with integrity that says, we're not looking at you just for your money, we're looking for you as a partner in our organization. So before we get to how to get the meeting in the process of the actual meeting itself, I just want to open up this, like the halfway point, to any questions that revolve around the types of people, how to reach out to them, who should be there with you at the meeting. We're going to now kind of turn the gears to the actual getting the meeting and the meeting itself, but I want to open it up for a moment or two. If Moshe Hecht, if you can kind of chip in here or step in here and facilitate that for a couple minutes.
Okay, Jonah, so you want to bring your screen back? We have actually an interesting question that just came in.
Yeah, let me hang on a second. I apologize. Okay, is that better?
Yeah, so we have a question here from someone who wishes to stay anonymous, which anonymous is actually a word that we don't mention here at Charidy. We don't say the A word here at Charidy, but we'll do it for this one. Someone is asking, basically, to paraphrase, what are your thoughts about doing the mattress solicitation at a Parlor meeting with major donors? So just to give a little bit of, to sort of expand on that question, it's this question that we actually get a lot. Charidy it's a new thing for many. Okay, I mean, many organizations are already doing it for a second and third time. This year in December, we have many organizations already lined up doing the third charity campaign. So it's sort of become part of their process. They do a dinner every year. They're doing a charity campaign every year. But for many, obviously, being that this is the first time that they're doing it, they already have existing processes in place. So they already have Parlor meetings, email blasts. They almost have some really successful organizations have a fundraiser every quarter that's already established. So the question to you is, Jonah, what are your thoughts about a Parlor meeting which already has its own structure, right? You come into that Parlor meeting, you're planning on getting 5 to 10K from every single person, landing commitments. What are your thoughts on using the Parlor meeting as a way to get your charity matchers? Do you feel it?
Okay.
In other words, do you feel that it's a contradictory and leave it separate, or do you feel there's a way that you can actually include that?
Okay, so the answer is it can work or it can blow up. I'll tell you how. It can work really effectively because it's very effective to play one matcher against another matcher. The idea that you can say, if this person's in, then you'll be in, and then this person will be in, right? We do that even when we talk to matcher, if they're a little hesitant about whether this is the real deal or not, to say, look, if I come back to you with another matcher or two, would you step up then? So there's definitely inherent value of having people in the room who are potential matchers to hear from each other. The idea to play it off. However, you run a risk. One risk that you run is the fact that they might get mob mentality against it. In other words, if you can back channel conversations and solicit for matchers, that keeps you at the driver's wheel. At the driver's wheel. If you're in a setting where you have multiple people, it can kind of go off the rails because then they might start focusing on the wrong things. They might bring up questions that might have very real good answers, but it can become a pile on, and you just want to be able to control the setting a little bit more. So I would say a Parlor meeting that's open to the masses or like a big group of major donors, might not be the appropriate thing. But if you're putting together a parlor meeting of 2 or 3 or 4 individuals or 4 couples, that is the hard ask is built around this matching thing, about the mattress for charity, then I would say it's okay. But you have to make sure, the other thing is you have to make sure it's a hard sell, because a lot of times when you have a group of people there, you can easily walk out of a parlor meeting and go, oh no, I didn't actually like seal the deal with these guys. Like, this was my opportunity, but because it was a bunch of questions and we left it open, and it never really sealed the deal. So I would say 2 things. One is make sure that if this is a parlor meeting, it's not too many people. It's focused on just the people that are getting a real and it's a part of the agenda, just one piece of our parlor meeting, I would say it might not be appropriate to do it. But if it's something that could be focused here tonight, and this is the ask, it's a sell, that would be appropriate because of the peer-to-peer and it's focused. We just want to make sure that you want to stay in control of the ask, and again, in some ways, this is individualized to each organization. So you might say, okay, Jonah, but the type of event I'm doing is really that this, and I won't lose the reins, or I'll be able to really do a good ask there, and I can seal the deal. So even though I'm kind of painting it with broad strokes, it's going to come down to your specific parlor meeting and if it makes sense. But these are things that you should think about. You want to play off each other, but you don't want them to be, to kind of piggyback on each other against what the idea is. And you also want to make sure that you can do a legitimate full ask where you can come away with a concrete yes or no.
Right. There's no question that people of affluence have opinions, and it can just domino effect into a mob setting without the proper, the proper setting to properly present it. It is a revolutionary ask, and it's very different. And if you don't have that proper time to explain exactly how it works, it can get out of hand. What I could add to that, and what we've seen parlor meetings be super successful, is if you're doing somewhat of a larger campaign, where part of the charity training program is to make sure that you do, not on the day of the campaign, but the days leading up to the campaign, to try to secure some middle tier donations, right? So imagine you're doing a $200,000 campaign. You got your 350K groups, excellent, right? And then you have your volunteers lining up, but based on the charity algorithm and the math, we're like, you still need to secure at least, 20 grand from middle tier donations. So we would say, okay, try to get 10 people to commit to $1,800 as part of the project, as part of the program, right? So a parlor meeting would be a great time to say, like, listen, we're doing a charity campaign, maybe in a month from now, maybe in 2 months from now. I suggest that if we can get you guys to commit your donations to commit towards this campaign, we won't take it from you now, but we will apply it to the campaign. So you either give me your credit card number now, or I'll send you the link on the day of the campaign. That's been very beneficial to, to sort of tie in parlor meetings to charity campaigns. Okay, so we have another question here. So thank you, Jonah. Excellent response to that. So really case by case, but you don't want things get out of hand. We have a question from a Rabbi David. I'm not sure, it doesn't show his last name over here. He is from Chabad at UCLA. So his question is like this: so which type of existing donor is best to approach to be a matcher, right? So it sort of goes back to what we talked about in the beginning. David, great question. So this is not a new donor. This is someone who already gives. Who would be sort of your lowest, if I may sort of, just churn the question a little bit, who would be maybe your lowest hanging fruit? Because you have a few existing matchers. Who would be maybe like the first person to go to, right? The best, well, all of them are prospects. But who would be the best person to go to first from your existing donors?
Sure. So, all right. So there's the selfless, and then there's the selfish reason.
Jonah, you want to repeat that because you're chopping out a little bit. So.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Is that better now?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Okay. So I would say there's 2 types of characteristics that would make up the lowest hanging fruit prospect as a matcher. One is more selfish and one's more selfless. The selfish one is the person who likes their names and lights, because it's a very, very compelling thing to say to somebody that you are going to help leverage a very large number of people to give, and it's done in a very public way. Can it be done anonymous, right? And apparently we don't use the A word, but we want it to people to understand that when they give $1, it becomes $4. And that's a very powerful thing, and it's because of you, the matcher. And because you're at the top there and you made it, you facilitated it, you made it happen, there's a certain allure to the idea that you can make it rain in such a small period of time and be responsible for that. So the ability to play that up, the idea for certain individuals that like the kavod, who like the honor, that, to say, like, not in a way where you can't be transparent. You can say, like, I know you love the honor, right? That would never fly. Or I mean, maybe for a few people it would, but for the majority of people, you have to be a little bit more subtle and just into the conversation say, your gift, and explain how it looks, show them the page, show them where they show up on there. And the idea is that the community will see that you're helping them leverage the gift. They're a smart person. They know if they're chasing the honor, they see the opportunity there and the ability for them to kind of make it happen. So there's that piece. There's the idea that certain people just are lightning rods for the opportunities. And especially, you'll know that from, like, if you've done a capital campaign or anything that requires a name and lights, or somebody who is the MC of your dinner, or the person who just seems to be the lightning rod for it, that's clearly somebody who might be interested in. That's a selfish reason.
So basically someone who has a history of wanting to get more involved and come onto your side of the table and partner up with you to actually make things happen. In other words, he's not like
so that's actually my number 2. That's the selfless one. Right? Okay. The selfless one is the idea of the person who sees the ability to do the charity model in 24 hours, get 100% success. Like, it's not like, will this campaign be successful? Right? They're usually often. I've seen this with business people. This as the idea that it's done, efficiently, effectively, everything's primed, and the ability for this to make a real difference in the organization. There's certain people who are very attuned to that. In fact, some of the best charity matchers, who are the repeat charity matchers, they say this is the number one reason why they do it, is because they say there's no other platform or no other way that I can give $1 and it turns into $4 in the community. So being able to play that up for certain individuals, and people who are, whether they're investment bankers or real estate people who understand that they can make their money work for them in a way that's not like just a conservative investment, but this is something that can magnify the impact. Those are types of people who are more selfless way will say, I can take my gift and really blow this out in a much bigger way, and strengthen the base of giving with the organization to make the organization healthier. This is much more than just the actual 24 hours. I'm bringing in lots of new donors. Charity campaigns bring in a tremendous number of new donors. So for certain individuals, to sell them on the idea that it happens fast, it happens efficiently, you get the success, and you help us with the long-term growth of the organization, that is a compelling reason for a lot of individuals. So for the people who are business-minded and understand the value of magnifying an investment exponentially, the person who likes the risk, not because this is not this is a risky thing. Everything has risk, but we hedge our bets. They want calculated risk. And charity provides you a wonderful calculated risk. Can you get in an all or nothing campaign? Can it be nothing? Absolutely. But we don't let that happen. So the idea is that a donor can make a calculated risk and magnify their gift 4 times is a very worthwhile investment. And that's a great angle, is to use the investment angle.
So just to give a synopsis on that, I guess what you're saying is, to answer Rabbi David's questions of what type of existing donor is best to approach to be a matcher, I think your point is that find those people who are excited about coming onto your side of the table and being a partner with you, and understand the value of not being dependent, understand the value of creating a ripple effect throughout the community, and are excited to see that. Maybe in the past they've told you, like, You know, I don't want to be the only donor of your organization. You know, why am I the only sucker giving to this thing? Go get other donors. This is the best opportunity. That should be your first matcher, right? Go get other people. Go get other people. Okay, this is the framework we're going to do it. If I don't get another 2 major gifts and the entire community, I won't cash your check, right? So that was number. I do want to add that a good approach, Rabbi David, is that, you know, we always, at Charidy, we're always encouraging every organization that we work with to always think in 2 words: new money, new money. So a good person, Jonah just described the personality. What I would say on a more technical level is the first person you should go to is perhaps someone who you know who has, maybe not the first, but one of your matchers, and generally you're thinking about, who's giving you an X amount. You're going there to Charidy not to ask for the same amount, but you're asking for more. You're asking for a 50 to 100% increase on the donation. And, you know, these people have the means to give. And maybe last year they gave to Chabad only 5, right? Or they gave to your friendship circle, they gave to your organization only 5K. But you know they're giving to the American Cancer Society 50K, right? So they're not giving to you because they don't have the means to give to you, but because they don't necessarily see you as such, you know, as the financial value that they're looking to get when they give to organizations. So that would be an ideal person, existing donor, who's giving you 5, but you know, and the guy's on the Forbes 500. You know he drives a Tesla, right? So you know that they're you know, capable of giving more. And that would be a great person to go to when you say, hey, I know you gave me 5, but now I'm asking you for 25 on the condition that I can quadruple it by getting other donors, et cetera. Okay. So we're going to take one more question we have over here, and then we're going to go back to your presentation. We have a Mali leader who asks like this: would a potential donor who clearly shares the vision of the organization but has not yet given funds, mainly due to being very hard to pin down, as most potential donors are, large donors, be a good candidate for a matcher? So they clearly share the vision. They live in your community. Maybe they show up for Yom Kippur, right? Or they give to special needs, or they give to Jewish education on campus, or they give to this, you know, feeding the animals in the Amazon, right? But they've never given to you, and because you can't find them, you can't get a meeting with them, they're impossible. Would this person be worth the time? I would say, even to stretch the question out more, would they be worth the time? Would they be worth the effort to go to as a potential charity match?
So, okay, so first of all, let me dispel, in a way, a certain myth. I want to push away the idea that it's hard to nail them down. You come up with either the right introduction or the right product to them, you'll get the meeting, and it's not impossible to nail them down. The issue is the number one reason why people don't give or haven't given yet. You said they share the mission and vision, but they don't give. The reason why is because they've never given before. So if they've never been asked, I apologize. They've never been asked. If they've never been asked, then they won't give. If they share the vision and they have not given yet, it's probably because they've never been asked. And it might be that you've asked, or if you're saying if they've been asked, it might be too low. Get a gift of some kind in at some level. Even if it's a potential $10,000 donor, to get them to give $360 for a first-time gift makes them have equity and have ownership as a partner, even if it's a small way. Now let's get to the charity piece. Absolutely, is charity a compelling reason to go to somebody and say, look, you've never given before, but I think this is a unique opportunity that I think you would appreciate. That is absolutely a wonderful sell. In fact, many of our clients do this for people that it's been, we just haven't found the right opportunity yet. So it's about finding the right opportunity for somebody, and that this could be it, not because they're hard to nail down. So I just want to draw the distinction. You'll nail them down, but you got to bring them the right opportunity so that you can nail them down. And if you go to them and say, you know what we do, you appreciate what we do, we have a unique opportunity that has not existed before, and we think you'd be particularly interested in this, that would be a compelling ask to frame it in such a way that, here, as a matcher, this is different than the other things we've done before. And again, it's hard to know why they haven't given before, but I suspect that if they do actually genuinely share the vision of your organization, they haven't given yet, it's because they haven't been asked. So we need to get them to get to the point where you get that meeting, and then pitch this in a way that says, This is unlike anything we've done before, or this is unique because you can leverage all the benefits of what a charity campaign does, 4 times your amount. It's a 24-hour campaign. So if you ever felt like you're giving money to a black hole and that the campaign is going to go on forever, this is one and done, right? It's 24 hours and you're done. So it can give them immediate satisfaction. So all these are wonderful kind of news events that you can bring to them and say, this is a reason why I'm contacting you now, even though we've never done it before. So I just want to emphasize the importance on asking them for money, right? Whatever the giving level is. But once you're asking them for money, absolutely, if they have the capacity to give matcher level giving, then this is a wonderful way to do it.
Okay, so let's go back to your screen, Jonah. Very good. Thank you, everyone, for your questions. Let's continue.
Okay, let me share the screen. Hang on. All right. All right, here we go. Okay, getting the meeting. All right, because it's nice to talk about and strategize for 1,000 hours all the people that you would love to meet, but if you can't pull the trigger, it doesn't get you very far. So we want to get past what I find a lot of times is people focus on who the right people are and talking about them, but they have the paralysis by analysis, right? They're frozen, they don't actually make it. So what we need to do is break it down on getting that meeting. And it's very, very simple. And I want to make it one slide and one slide only. Your goal is to get an in-person meeting. Get your foot in the door. You're not sales pitching on the call. When you're calling them up, you're going to do it in a very succinct manner, making the case of what you want their time, 20 minutes in their office, make it convenient for them where it's there. They don't have to travel anywhere. You want to speak to them and you want 20 minutes of their time. And it's about something that's a unique opportunity that's come up. And if you have any level of introduction, you're using the introduction to say why you're contacting them. This common connection, recommended we speak. Get in the door. Do not sell on the phone. If you can't get the in-person meeting and you have to sell on the phone, or your relationship is so strong that you can literally dial for dollars and call them up and pitch them over the phone, then so be it. But there's nothing more powerful than the in-person meeting. And your goal when you call someone for a meeting is to get in the door. Just get the meeting and you'll pitch it in person. You do not want to do a full sales pitch over the phone, and especially not by email. You want to do it in person. You're asking them to give you a serious amount of money, then you need to treat it like it's a serious ask and that it deserves the time and effort of going to their office and making the ask. So it's very important because of the ability to sell it properly in front of them face to face, and the fact that you're taking it seriously, that it deserves an in-person visit. These are the two reasons why you're trying to get in the door, and that needs to be the most important thing: is to ask for the meeting and them to understand that this is not this is not something you're going to be wasting their time. It's going to be brief and timely. Now, getting their meeting and meeting with them is important to understand the difference between an active solicitation and a passive solicitation. You have a lot to offer. In other words, you are not coming from an angle with your hands out like a schnorr, like a beggar. You're giving them an opportunity, right? This is not you asking in a reactive or passive way and say, please help me. This is you giving them an opportunity. And that means the ability to do all the things that Charidy promises. It's a 24-hour campaign. It's done in 24 hours. You hit 100% goal in 24 hours. It's all or nothing. Right? You are going to get the 100% amount, and it's going to be in 24 hours. You're going to bring on other major supporters to be matchers, as well as major supporters to support this campaign and magnify their giving. It's going to bring in lots of new donors. It's going to be able to be in a way where the community sees the value and the impact, and it's going to get them to not only give first time, but also the advocacy, to see the impact of the organization when everybody gets blitzed in 24 hours with the testimonials and the marketing materials, the emails and the Facebook and the Instagram and all this stuff that happens within a 24-hour period. They have the opportunity to get this message out of your organization to a much larger audience. And that's something that they can make possible. So you need to go in there with the understanding that you're getting the meeting, you're getting your foot in the door to get the meeting, and then when you're pitching them, you're being proactive. This is something that it has tremendous value, and you're giving them the unique opportunity to be an exclusive matcher, one of only 3 people that will make this campaign a success. So I always like showing this slide because people ask me, where should this meeting happen? If you're asking for somebody getting the meeting or how to get a meeting, I usually like to not do it in either a place that has a lot of noise level, or I don't even like doing it in someone's office where it's sterile. I don't in a boardroom or something like that. I like to find a place where it can be quiet, where it's no distractions, but at the same time will provide a certain professionalism, a comfort, convenience. They say that most endowment asks happen on the golf course. I don't know if that's true literally, but to make the deals happen, whether it's in business or the philanthropy, on the golf course, because it's a place where you're able to be real. There's a certain comfort. You're not distracted by 1,000 things. You're able to kind of have real conversation. It's a wonderful experience. And I know, different people do different settings. I suggest doing it in a way where they have a lot of distraction, like people coming and going around you, where their eyes are not focused on you and focused on what you're dealing with. You do it in a place where it's inconvenient for them, whether you choose a restaurant that's a big drive for the matcher, or at a time where it's not convenient for them. If they've got little kids, being considerate of the fact that they may want to be home for dinner with their family, or you might try to call them on a night or a weekend where it's not convenient for them. You need to be considerate of what is going to be comfortable for them, so they can give you the undiluted attention, and that they can focus on you and your ask. So it's very important to think not only about getting your foot in the door, but where you're getting that foot in your door. It might not be a literal door. It might not be the door to their office. It might be their office. That might be where they want, because it's convenient, it's at their office. But to be mindful of the idea that the setting, the emotion that it brings, plays a very important role in them saying yes or no, just like if it was anything else. People make decisions emotionally, and for them to be comfortable and be able to concentrate and to focus will help them and help you secure them as a matcher. I just reiterate the importance of the charity pitch, because I alluded to the fact that it needs to be active, right? You're not begging. You're saying you're coming from a position of power, of value that you're bringing to them. So I want to explain to you that your pitch should be comprised of really 4 things, and it can be modified depending on the individual and what they would be receptive to. So number 1, the first thing they need to understand is the impact, right? The impact of what a charity campaign does. It's mission-driven, not method-driven. Don't talk about from the onset about how the charity campaign will work, how you get influencers, what happens 48 hours in advance, what happens 24 hours in advance. You will get to that. But the first thing you need to do is to say what the 24-hour campaign will accomplish with the vision of your organization and what it will do on the ground. That is first and foremost, because it's going to be a lot harder for them to say no if you emphasize the impact. You're treating them as a partner. If you give me money, it'll get us from point A to point B. If you sell them on point B, it makes it very hard for them to dial it back. Number 2, you've sold them on the mission, leveraging the potential. The idea that they, as a matcher, will help secure other matchers. If they're the 3rd matcher, then it's a slam dunk. They're the number 3 and you have 2 other matchers. But then also the leveraging the community potential, both in the ability for them to give. That means existing donors to give more, because people, if they realize their money is being quadrupled, they're going to give more than they normally do. They'll say, oh, okay, well, instead of $18, I'll do $54 because of the advocacy, with the ability for the community to see the impact of your organization. So you be able to communicate the ability to leverage them as a matcher is the next most important thing. The next thing you want to do is contingency. Let them know that this is a 24-hour all or nothing campaign, right? This is important because it lets them know that if their money is not leveraged to 100%, they don't have to give a dime. That's right. Right? This is the scary thing, especially for established institutions or organizations that would never, ever do something like this. What we're saying to the donor is that we're either going to do this or we're not going to do this. We're either going to hit the goal or we're not going to hit the goal. And that means explaining to them that this campaign is a 24-hour all or nothing campaign, and that the community knows this, and that he knows this, and that if we don't hit our goal, everybody gets their money back, or no one's money is actually charged. So that's very important to explain also, that there's contingency attached to this. And then lastly, the idea of how the community recognition piece works. Of course, if there's somebody who is not a big person as far as the honor, or tends to like the anonymity, the ability to play this down is important. But the idea that this is something that has tremendous impact and creates a deep resonance in the community, and that it recognizes the donors, that their names show up listed there as giving. It recognizes the matchers, showing them live campaigns that are happening in real time. It creates a visceral feel, so you could show them, look, here's new gifts coming in right now. This is how it's the matchers are. Every time a dollar comes in, it's another dollar comes out from the matchers. Being able to show them that for a live campaign, or even successful campaigns where they can see it visually, is important. So these are the 4 things I would say for a matcher you want to be able to make clear: the mission, leveraging matchers in the community, the contingency, it's all or nothing, and as well as the community and the recognition that's associated with that. Okay, the last thing I want to get to is what the responses are from a potential matcher. Because if you get a yes, we don't have to really talk about that, because if they say yes, then you're, congratulations, mazel tov, you got your yes. But if you get a no, it's not always a no. I mean, yes, there's a sense of no means no, and you have to respect somebody's decision. But sometimes you have to unpack it and understand, what are they saying? A resolute no? Absolutely not, get away, get out of my office? Or is there reasons for why they're saying no that you can address and possibly even rectify? So the question is this a true no? Or is it saying, what you're saying, or the way you've pitched it, Jonah Halper or Moshe Hecht, or whoever it is that you are in watching the video, it might not be the way you presented it, or there might be something that they're not getting out of it. So you could say to them clearly, I understand, I respect your no. What is it about it that's not working for you? And that can help them save face in a way, because what you could say is, if it's not working for you, let us know. Because if there's something that we're not explaining and we can explain better, whether it's for you or other people, help us do what we do better, right? Explain, what is it that's not compelling to you? So you're asking them to offer up the reason, the logic behind their no. And this helps in 2 ways. One, it might get you to the second half of this, of what would make you say yes, but also it helps them really talk through why they're really saying no. Do you have a real reason to say no, or is this a visceral gut response? The moment I'm asking you to verbalize why you're saying no, it makes the person have to say, well, okay, well, what is it that's really bothering me? And hopefully, it's no guarantee. And of course, no means no, but you can at the same time possibly have the information handy. Don't try to make something up. If you need to go back and check something and say, look, what I think you're spending the money on, or what the campaign is going to support, is not really my thing. You might be able to say, there might be an opportunity. Let me come back to you. There might be a way that we can still make this work. But at least being able to understand what it is that's bothering them, instead of just leaving it at no, is very important. And also that no can be also no faith in the model. It might not be about the giving. It might not be about your organization. They might say, I don't know about this charity thing. This is like new to me, or 3 matchers, and it might not make sense to them. They might not feel that other people will buy in. They may not be one of the suckers to be the first one in. Sometimes they want to know that there's other people already behind it. So you might say to them, okay, I understand that you're a little hesitant because of this new model, but maybe we can come back to you as the 3rd matcher. We might be able to come back to you once we have other matchers that you may know from the organization to say, okay, here we are, we're ready. We can pull the trigger with your support. If you come on board now, we're ready to go, all or nothing, let's do this. So that might be the case. They might be a little nervous about the format of doing a charity campaign, because they're just not familiar with it. Just because you, on the other end of the video here, have seen so many charity campaigns and so many shluchim and so many Chabad houses and so many organizations do it successfully, doesn't mean that your donor has that same faith. So being able to give them the ability to know that there are other people backing it is very important. So they might say, absolutely not, don't want to be a matcher, not going to happen, too bad, so sad. So you might be able to rebut and say, I understand, that's fine, don't want to be a matcher, but I hope I can count on you to be a donor during the campaign, right? When we launch this thing, all or nothing, and it's all or nothing, no matter what level donor you are, come back to you as a mid-tier donor to consider giving $10,000 during the campaign on that day. They might say, sure, that's fine, come back to me on that day, we can talk about the amount then, or something along those lines, but there's nothing wrong to say, if you don't want to be a matcher, but maybe you could be the next group of people to support it on the day of. And then also, as you know, there are such ideas of doing a bonus match. If you hit certain goals, you might want to increase that. So you might say, look, you may not want to be first man or woman in, but if we're having success and we hit our goal, would you come in at that point? Would you step it up in a big way to help us on a bonus round and help us succeed once we've already succeeded? That's another important angle for somebody who's afraid to get in, to be the first one to jump in the river. And then lastly, and this is something you have to respect, because this is a very important thing that I think that a lot of people try to push too hard on, is to give them the time to consider. Now, it doesn't mean to leave it open-ended. You need to give them a real deadline. You need to say to them, that's fine, I understand you need time to consider. What is a date and time that we can regroup and make a firm decision on this? That you should absolutely do. Just because they need time to consider doesn't mean it's something that has left open-ended forever. Give them a real deadline. Explain that there's a sense of urgency. This campaign is all or nothing, and you need to do this. Let's say if you're going to be doing it Hanukkah time or end of year, you need to get your ducks in a row and all the planning. You need to make a decision in 3 weeks from now, or 2 weeks from now, or even a week from, a couple of days from now. You need to be able to let them know that there is a deadline that is larger than them, and that you want to get a firm date and time that you can follow back up with them and come to that ultimate decision. So those are kind of the things that you want to discuss. When someone says no, it might be no, absolute no. It might be the amount may not work for them. So you might come to them and say, lower offer, maybe I'll be part of a consortium. I may not give you $50,000, but if you get me and 2 other people or 1 other person to be one of the matchers, I would do that. They might be not confident with Charidy as the campaign model. So to come back to them and say, once we have other matchers, or they'll be a mid-tier level donor instead of a matcher, or maybe they'll come in on a bigger level as a bonus matcher. And then of course, if they say they need time to think about it, give them the time, explain to them why there is a real deadline, and ask them to give you a good date and time that you can follow up with them and get a firm response. So that's pretty much the presentation. My email is here, jonah@charidy.com. I'm sure we have a couple more questions. I just want to be sensitive to people's times because we're at 2 o'clock. So I don't know if we have a firm deadline, but I want to open it up back to Moshe to allow for any follow-up questions.
Thank you, Jonah. That was great. Really hit on some amazing points there. Obviously, this is just a very small part of the different scenarios that can come up, and there are so many different things that can be discussed. To everyone out there, I'm getting an echo, Jonah.
How's it now? Better?
Let me see. Yeah, better.
Okay,
so I want everyone here to, first of all, just keep in mind that Charidy is, thank God, a growing team right now. We have a team of 15 right now. Out of those 15 people, 11 are fundraising specialists, okay? And that means that we are not just a platform and a technology and people with good ideas, but we actually have the capacity and the staff to really hold your hand throughout the process and to really answer all of these questions along the way. A second thing is, like Jonah, you mentioned about what happens if they say no. One scenario that we've seen happen a lot is that those matchers who initially said no, 2 things happen, which is why I would say that if you think someone's going to say no, you shouldn't hesitate to get that meeting for 2 reasons. Number one, those people usually end up saying, listen, I can't be a matcher, $50K, it's a lot of money, but I'll give you something on the campaign, on the day of the campaign. And that giving, what they're giving on the day of the campaign, is not 360. It usually ends up being something like 1,800, like 2,500, 5,000. So it ends up being significant, because you ask them for 50 and they say no to 50. They know that they have to come in at a level that's that's going to grab your attention and say, okay, listen, you came all the way down to my office. You really gave it all you got. I told you no, but I'm going to give you something of significance. And that we've seen that. Number two is what we've seen happen time and time again, is that those matchers who may have said no in the beginning, they end up becoming bonus matchers on Charidy. Okay, they didn't believe it was possible. They didn't think you'd get the other two matchers. They didn't think that the community would come forward on such a level. And then when they start to see that happen, they call up the organization. And we've seen this time and time again. They say, oh my goodness, how do I become a part of this? So I say, well, if we reach our goal in record time, we can have you as a bonus matcher, and we can have you join this campaign. And we've seen that time and time again. So, when they say generally in fundraising, no is never no, Charidy adds a real level to that on a very practical level. The no is not no. Not only, okay, they'll give you, for Rosh Hashanah, they'll buy a seat. This is no is not no, is that they will usually participate in the campaign on some level, on some significant level. We have a question over here, which is, I don't know how much is this for you, Jonah. I think I'll grab this if you want to chime in, and then if no more questions come in, then we'll call it a day. So Rishi asks, is it really and truly all or nothing? Or is it a hoax? Where if it looks like you aren't going to make it, the admin, I'm assuming the administrator of the organization, can just plug in some number, or maybe the administrator of Charidy can just plug in some number to make the thermometer go up. Some people say that the all or nothing is misleading. So we don't avoid difficult questions here at Charidy, and I'd love to address that. And Jonah, if you want to chime in, you can chime in. It's a great question. Charidy is definitely something revolutionary in a sense, okay, where there's nothing existed like this. When we started, to raise $5,000 in 24 hours was just unbelievable. Now we're raising, $1.7 million in a day. Okay. So there's definitely, some justified hesitance, or some justified questions of the legitimacy of what's happening, because it's so new and it's so fresh. What I can tell you is like this. I can tell you the facts. Okay. The facts are as follows. Every single donation that you see on Charidy applied to the goal was processed donations. Okay. Never in the history of Charidy was ever a donation put in that wasn't actually processed to a bank account. Okay. So there's no way that you can just go into you could technically do it, but it's never happened and never will happen. Otherwise, we have no business where you can just go in and plug in numbers for the goal to go up. So every single donation, every single dollar that shows up on the goal is actual money in the bag. Now, I can tell you the rule, and then there's always the exception to the rule, right? Let's take an example in the music industry. So if you come out with an album, and you sell 1 million albums, you go gold. Right? I think actually gold is they've brought it much lower now, what it takes to go gold. I think it's like 100,000 albums, right? So you bring it out there. If 100,000 people buy your album, then you go gold, right? So typically that's the rule. And the rule is actually very significant, because if 100,000 people are buying your album, that means that people want to listen to it. That means this is legitimate. That means this is a great artist. Okay. There was an artist there was a band. I don't remember the name, but there was a band in the 70s, I believe, that they came out with. They were a band, and they were they came from a very wealthy family. Okay. The moment their album hit the shelves, they went into every single Virgin music store in the city, and they bought out a crazy amount of their albums because they had money. And they went gold. Okay, they basically bought the entire inventory of their albums so they can become gold, so they can get onto the Billboard's top 10, top 50. It's a gold album. Now I don't know when it was found out later. So is that fear? Absolutely not. But that was obviously the exception of the rule. Okay, what happens on Charidy? The numbers don't lie. We've run 450 campaigns, and there has been 70,000 donations. And repeat that. 450 campaigns, $35 million, 36 actually have today, and there have been 70,000 donations. Okay? Now, obviously, it's about 50,000 people have donated to, and then 70,000 actual donations. Okay? If you look on the campaign itself, you can see today's campaign. Okay? Let's see here. Magen Lechola, 854,000, 832 donors, and every single one of these donors' names are here, clear, and transparent. So those numbers don't lie. Now, that's the rule. The rule is charity really, really works. It really gets people incentivized to give. Now, the exception of the rule, that if an organization is really struggling and if they have excess money on their credit card, will they go put it in? Well, we can't control that. As much as the music industry couldn't control this very wealthy family from going and buying all their albums out. So in real, true honesty, is there an exceptions to the rule where organizations will go and swipe their card? Yes. But remember, not every organization has $20,000 credit, has a $20,000 credit line. Okay. And not every organization is willing to do that or is, shaykh to do that. Is it technically possible? Yes, it's technically possible. But in contrast to what is happening and the success that is a complete exception to the rule, it's a complete exception to what has happened. And I think 70,000 donations really builds the case for this. So is it possible?
Can I?
Yeah, possible. Jonah, go ahead.
Yeah, I want to add one more thing. A lot of times this question comes from a place of it's a very ambitious thing. You have a very ambitious goal. You want to hit the goal, and people go, "Oh, I really like. How can you have this kind of success?" And the truth is, it comes from the place of that no campaign gets to that 48 hours or 24 hours before the campaign unless you've stacked the deck. You've got X number of donors between $1,000 and $10,000 that are getting solicited, whether it's face-to-face, whether it's phone calls, whatever it is, you've stacked the deck in advance. So when Moshe's saying is that when you hit a campaign, you have a campaign and you're struggling and you're like $20,000 short, people can go back to their matchers, or they may go out to a certain individual and say, we need you to rescue this. We need you to get us to that point where we can hit a goal. That's a solicitation. If I go to somebody and say, we're $20,000 short and we got half an hour to go and it can be nothing, can you bail us out and make it happen? That is 100% a legitimate solicitation. And most of the time, that's the nature of a last-minute ditch effort. Not where the organization themselves are swiping their credit card. It's them going to a couple key individuals who are not going to let the campaign fail. Now, if you are thinking about doing something like that on your own, I would be very, very careful that the issue is not being dishonest to yourself. It's being dishonest to the original matchers. You need to let them know that if you're going to be charging a credit card with your organization, right, to help you get to that point, that's drawing down on every dollar they give goes 4 times from the matcher. So you need to make sure that you have buy-in from the matchers from an honesty and authenticity standpoint that they know you're going to do that. But again, as Moshe said, not only is it the exception to the rule, 9.99999 times out of 10 is them going to a couple key individuals who are not going to let the campaign fail, not somebody who from the organization swiping the credit card themselves to cover the distance. And again, I would just, from an integrity standpoint, if you are going to find yourself in a position where you're going to swipe a credit card yourself, you better make sure that you have the buy-in from the matchers, because that's just, it's a plain honesty thing. I think, I feel very strongly about that you need their buy-in. You need the matchers buy-in, because you're taking their dollars and matching it 4 times against that money as well. Right.
Let me add on top of that. We know that this is a very ambitious, and there is risk involved in charity. The fact that we have 100% success rate to date is something that we really do not take for granted. I'm actually coming out with an article that will be out soon about really breaking down how we've been able to maintain this 100% success rate. But this is not, we don't take it for granted. When you approach us to do a charity campaign, you're going to be working with us for weeks. to make sure that you will mitigate all of that risk, that you won't have to come to that point where you'll have to do desperate measures. The point is, when you work with us, we will start by doing a vetting process and making sure that you have a good history of fundraising. We will then apply our data to your history of fundraising and how much increase we can do for your organization to come up with a goal that is ambitious yet attainable. We want the goal to be ambitious, but we want it to be attainable, right? In other words, if you can take a scooter right now and you can drive around your entire community and raise $100,000 because that's your donor base value, you can do that on Charidy within 24 hours. And we will work with you to make sure that you're building up your social equity, that you have the channels of communication. So it's our job at Charidy to work together with you, the organization, that never actually takes place, that scenario, to mitigate as much risk. Will one day a campaign on Charidy fail? I believe that that's possible. You know, I'm going to blame it on myself. The Jewish guilt is going to say it's my fault because I got lazy, or the team at Charidy got lazy and didn't hold the organization accountable for our program that we do with every single organization, and we're building that program, and that or the organization will not be honest and will say, yeah, we got 10,000 email lists. The unforeseeables and things you can't control. Like they tell you, if you tell us that you have 10,000 people on your email list, but you really only have 1,000, and we calculate your goal based on 10,000 emails. That would be a reason why the campaign would fail. So I think in closing, the all or nothing is not just a gimmick, and it's not just a game. It's there to tell your community that we want to share the responsibility with you to help us reach great heights. Okay, we don't want to be the only ones sitting and sweating about our donations. We want you to get a sense of shared responsibility, and we're telling you, the donors, that these matchers have only agreed to quadruple your money is if everyone gets involved, and that's why it needs to be all or nothing, because we want to get the buy-in from the entire community, and that's why it's all or nothing. In other words, we need to build this playground. And if 300 people can't step up to say, we want this playground, then maybe there shouldn't be a playground. And maybe the money should go back to you because there isn't a need. There aren't enough children to play in the playground, and therefore the money will just get returned. That's what the all or nothing is there for, to show you, to show the community, to show the matchers that there really is a critical mass of people that want this program to happen, or want this organization to succeed. Okay. We're a little bit late on time, but we have one more question, and I would actually, because of the nature of the question, I would like to do this. So as we're gonna wing this, Jonah. As an example, let's see, this could totally flop. As an example, can you give us a full ask from A to Z? So I think, Joan, it's time for us to do a little bit of a role play over here. So
am I Mr. Moneybags, or am I Charidy?
I don't know. You get to choose. What do you want to be? Do you want to be the matcher? Or do you want to be the asker?
All right. Well, let me put money where my mouth is, and if I'm telling everybody how to ask for money, I should probably be the person asking for money. I think. Okay. I could get off easy and let you do it, but I'll do it.
Let me put on my jacket. No, I'm just kidding. Go ahead. Okay. So Rabbi Rimler, or Mr. Rimler, Mrs. Rimler, we're going to do a little bit of a role play, and then we'll call it a day.
Oh God! Thanks a lot.
Welcome, Jonah. You have 2 minutes. Go ahead. I'm very busy.
Sure. So Moshe Hecht, you've been involved with our organization. You see the great work that we're doing with the special needs kids in our Friendship Circle program. We are literally at capacity. We would love to take on more kids. You've seen here, there's a couple pictures here. Take a look, see where the space that we're in right now. It's not accommodating what we do. So we've got people knocking on our door who want to come. We've got more kids who want to come. We have an opportunity to rent a new space and grow the program and do some wonderful things. And we have an idea of doing this type of program and this type of therapy and that type of therapy and this type of therapy. And that requires us to go out and raise $100,000.
$100,000? $50,000 for it is $10.
It's a lot of money. It's a lot of money, but it's for a good cause. And as you know, you've been involved. You've seen the kids in action. You come to shul and you stick around and you've seen the adorable kids. And we need to do it for more people. It's just we're not doing the capacity that we really need to do for our community. And I know that you've been so supportive of our community and invested in our community. I've got something that's very unique for you, and it's unique because it can happen right away. The ability for us to move into the space, in theory, if we had the money tomorrow, we could be in the space in 2 weeks from now or in 6 weeks from now with all the things that go into it. If we had $100,000, we'd be able to get in. So the reality is that we have the opportunity to raise that $100,000 in a very brief period of time. In 24 hours, there's an opportunity to do a campaign where we get a couple individuals who will step up, each give, what's the higher math here, $25,000, right? Each of them gives that, and then we're going to go to the community to do the final quarter. And when we go to the community, we're going to let them know that for every dollar they give, it's going to be $4 for the organization. And this platform that we're going to be using is a turnkey solution. They've done it for over 450 organizations, or many friendship circles. We did it for friendships. They did it for the Friendship Circle in New Jersey, in Detroit, in Boston, and they've had tremendous success. And effectively, what will happen is the matchers will pledge the money. They'll say that if we hit our goal of $100,000, they will give their $25,000, and we'll launch a campaign in the community where it's all or nothing, 24 hours, said and done.
So let me ask you something, Rabbi Jonah, that's beautiful. So let me just see if I understand what you're saying. You're telling me that if I give you $25,000, you will not cash my check, or you will not come to ask me for the money unless you can get another 2 people to give $25,000 and the entire community to give in the last 25%, and the last 25% will happen in 24 hours. Is that what I'm hearing from you?
That is what you're hearing, and it's because it's based on the need in the community. If we can't raise $100,000 for this growing friendship circle, then it's not meant to be. So we only want your money if this is something that can be real and can be supported by our community. So this is a no nonsense ask. This is coming to you and saying, would you take, I know as as a real estate person, you know that you want your investment to be a little bit more than 5%. So it's for you to know that you can give a dollar and we can turn it into $4 is something that would make sense to you and would be something important to you. And the other people that I have in mind, your friend Bernie, who sits on our board, he's an investment banker. He said he would be one of the matchers. We're still working on the third one, but I'll share with you who we have in mind and love your input. And if you think you could be of value to bring them to the table, but that would be it. It would be you 3 would then bring the 3/4 of the money, and we'd go out to the community and bring the last quarter. And we're confident we could do it because sorry, cutting you off. We were confident we could do it because the resources that Charidy brings to the table are very, very turnkey, as I mentioned. How we promote this. What's the language? We bring people in, and it means it'll mean a lot of new donors for us. It'll mean we have the opportunity to get increased gifts from people who've already been giving to us, right? So the point is, even though we're asking for you to step up and give a lot of money if this succeeds, it's actually taking a lot of the burden long-term off your back. We always want your support, but for you to give and to leverage the giving of the community, it means a lot more new donors, and it means that they're going to give more. So I would like to ask you to please consider making a gift of $25,000 for this charity campaign.
Well, Mr. Halper, I'm very impressed that you are not boring me with the same old ask. And you have my commitment, that on condition, if you can get Bernie and Sandra to come in at 25, or another 2 people to come at 25, or maybe even a group of 2 or 3 people. And if you can, in fact, which seems kind of ridiculous, it seems kind of unbelievable, if you can, in fact, get the rest of the community of small donors to give on one day that last 25, then you can count me in.
Woohoo!
Okay. Send me a PayPal bill. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you, Jonah, for giving a really well thought out and in-depth run through the matcher solicitation process. Everyone who's listening to there, please remember that the first step is to be in touch with a charity fundraising specialist who will be your consultant throughout this process. So reach out to us. If you do not have a fundraising specialist, please email us. So you can either email support@charidy.com or email Jonah or email myself, Jonah@Charidy or Moshe@Charidy, and we'll be sure to hook you up with a fundraising specialist. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful, wonderful weekend.
Thank you.